massive boxing card this Saturday night, arguably the most stacked card the UK has ever seen over in Wembley. You've got the Riyadh Season Wembley edition. This card is absolutely stacked from top to bottom, and I cannot wait to watch this. Now, thankfully, I was lucky enough to get a ticket, so I will be heading over to Wembley to watch this mega card. What I will say though is, yes, it is stacked from top to bottom, and it is without a doubt the best card we have seen in the UK in my lifetime anyway, from what I can remember. But this is definitely the weakest Riyadh Season event card that they've done. If you compare this to the likes of the LA card for Terence Crawford, yeah, like that card was crazy. But again, this is a stacked card. It just goes to show how spoiled we have been as boxing fans when we're saying a card like this is the weakest. Now, obviously, there has been a couple issues. A fight has fallen through, which was Liam Smith versus Josh Kelly. Josh Kelly, I believe, is still on the card. I'm not 100% sure though. Unfortunately, that fight did fall through. But let's talk about the rest of the card. I'm going to give you my predictions. Starting off, Anthony Joshua, Daniel Dubois. Get right in there with the big one. I cannot wait for this fight. Honestly, when this fight got announced, I thought it was like I was 99% certain that Anthony Joshua was going to KO Daniel Dubois. But the closer we get to this fight, honestly, this could be a pick-em in my opinion. This is such a close fight. AJ versus Daniel Dubois is going to be such a competitive fight, and I cannot wait to see it. Now, obviously, both guys have found a bit of form now. After the Usyk loss for AJ, he kind of had an identity crisis. He went in there against Frank Martin, and we've seen that he didn't really have the best performance in there. He done enough just to get by. Then he had the Robert Helenius fight where he knocked him out in the 7th round again. Now, yes, Helenius took that fight on short notice, but AJ did not really look great in that fight, especially when you compare what Wilder done to Helenius whenever he fought him, and it was in around not really close time frames, but there wasn't that massive jump between them. And look at how Wilder's looked recently, and AJ took AJ 7 rounds to get Helenius out of there, plus he was busted up in that fight as well. I just didn't think that was a great performance, and AJ just mentally just wasn't the same. He didn't have that self-belief, and you can see that. I mean, the guy was constantly changing trainers. He was over in Texas with Derek James at one point, I believe. He was just constantly changing trainers, and he just wasn't in the right headspace, and you could see that in his performances. Then you move over to Daniel Dubois, who, after the Usyk loss, was again being labelled as a quitter. Daniel Dubois has been labelled a quitter twice throughout his career. The Joe Joyce one I think is a bit harsh, because Joe Joyce busted Daniel Dubois' eye up, really hurt the guy in there. He did sustain a lot of damage in that fight, plus he was really young when he took that Joe Joyce fight. Then he had the fight against Alexander Usyk, and he gave Usyk a good tough test in there. Obviously, we know the low blow situation. Was it a low blow? Was it not? I'm not here to talk about that today. But then he was also labelled a quitter after that fight as well, because the referee got to the count of 10, and then that's when Daniel Dubois stood back up. A lot of boxers do that, to be honest, when they just don't want to do it anymore and they don't want to look like a quitter, so they'll stand up last second, and it's just too late by that point. But both guys have had a resurgence since the Usyk loss. Anthony Joshua linked up with Ben Davidson, which has done him the world of good. Once he linked up with him, he got that fight against Otto Wallin in there. A guy who honestly was very unlucky not to beat Tyson Fury, because that cut, really, that fight could have been stopped. That cut was that bad. AJ went in there, blew him out of the water. Otto Wallin offered him nothing. He was just a punching bag in there for AJ. He went back to the stool on the 7th, I believe. It might have been the 5th or 7th, I can't remember. And he quit. Then he got matched up against Francis Ngannou. Now, Ngannou was coming off a win over Tyson Fury. In my opinion, when I watched that fight live, I definitely thought Ngannou beat Fury. And going into the AJ Ngannou fight, I thought Ngannou was going to knock out Anthony Joshua. I will hold my hands up. That might be one of the worst takes of all time, but I genuinely believed Ngannou was going to knock out Anthony Joshua. And we just seen how that fight played out. Anthony Joshua showed levels, something that Tyson Fury was meant to do against Ngannou, but styles do make fights. AJ was very patient in there, and when he let the hands go, he hurt Ngannou. That was honestly probably one of the most brutal KOs I've seen in combat sports. Like, he left Ngannou flat on his back, leg bent. Ngannou was fucked. So AJ he's on a 2-fight win streak now. 2 wins coming by finish. and he's looking to regain the heavyweight title and become a 3-time heavyweight champion. Now, on the other side, you've got the IBF champion, Daniel Dubois, who, again, after the Usyk matchup, he was with Don Charles for the Usyk fight, but he spent a bit more time now with Don Charles, and you're really seeing that have a positive effect, especially on the mental side of Daniel Dubois' game. He went in there against Big Baby Miller on the Day of Reckoning card. Again, I thought Big Baby Miller was going to break Daniel Dubois mentally in there in the later stages of the fight. He was massive compared to Daniel Dubois in there. Now, was it in the right way, muscle, etc.? No, he was just like he was just fat, really. That's how you could describe Big Baby Miller in there. He just looked fat, to be honest. But Big Baby Miller is game, and he does show up to fight, and that was no different in the Daniel Dubois fight. Now, I did think Daniel Dubois would have a lot of success early on against Big Baby Miller, and that was the case. But then you've seen in the mid stages of the fight, there was a drop off in activity from Daniel Dubois, but he stayed in there. He didn't get disheartened. He didn't just give up. He stayed in there. He dug deep. He got that second win, and in the 10th round was able to stop Big Baby Miller, handing him his first defeat of his pro career. That was a really impressive performance from Daniel Dubois. Then you move on to the Filip Hrgovic fight. Filip Hrgovic was being talked about as one of the best. He just needed his opportunity to show how good he was, and I picked Filip Hrgovic to beat Daniel Dubois on the 5v5. When that fight started off, Daniel Dubois did show a bit of a hole in his game, and that is his defense. He had a lot of right hands off Filip Hrgovic in that matchup, but Daniel Dubois again showed that he's got a good chin, and he has flipped that switch mentally now where he just wants to get in there. He wants to get the job done. You've seen him between rounds when he was talking to his corner, how amped up he was, how up for that fight he was, and he went in there blasting a lot of right hands on Filip Hrgovic, cut the guy's face up, and really, if the fight hadn't been stopped due to cuts when it was really only a matter of time before Daniel Dubois laid him out, in my opinion. Daniel Dubois put it on him in that matchup and showed that, I know a lot of people say he shouldn't be the IBF champion because of the whole Usyk situation, but I think Daniel Dubois, he's the champion going into this matchup, and I think he should be respected as a champion going into this matchup. Now, basing it off the two guys' last performances, Daniel Dubois has the two better wins under his resume, in my opinion. I don't really think you can argue that, but in saying that, will that have a big impact in this fight? I think yes, because Daniel Dubois mentally has been in there with two very, very tough heavyweights. And as you can see through the build-up of this, he is giving AJ respect, but he's coming to take AJ's head off. And when you've seen the grand arrivals and all, I was wondering how would he look in this? Would he be a bit shaken mentally? But Daniel Dubois looks game, and he looks ready to go in there, and he is coming to hunt Anthony Joshua down, even though he's the champion, and that is the right mentality to have if you are Daniel Dubois. Now, both guys are very similar. They've got a great jab and a great right hand, both very powerful as well, both very physically strong. This, like I said, this is really, really close. Honestly, you could really put this fight down to whoever lands first is going to win, and it might come down to that. Now, Daniel Dubois, in my opinion, cannot just box with Anthony Joshua. Now, well, he can, but I don't think that's his key to victory. I think he has to get in with AJ, get into range, and put AJ's chin to the test. I think that's Daniel Dubois' best way of beating Anthony Joshua. Put him on the back foot and smother him. Don't give him room to pick his shots and, make reads on you. You have to get in there, make this dirty, put it on Anthony Joshua and test that chin. Where for AJ, he has to be a bit more selective, get behind that jab and pick his shots when Daniel Dubois is coming in. Now, like I said, Daniel Dubois did leave a lot of openings in the Filip Hrgovic fight. He had a lot of right hands in there, and if that happens against AJ, I think this fight ends quick, to be honest. If Daniel Dubois hasn't fixed that up, I think it'll be an early night for Anthony Joshua. I think he puts Daniel Dubois out on his back if that's the case. But let's not forget, these guys have sparred before, and the rumour was that Daniel Dubois cracked Anthony Joshua with a shot and could have followed it up and put him out, but didn't, out of respect for Anthony Joshua. Now, a lot of people are looking into that going into this matchup, and that psychologically might have an impact on, Daniel Dubois will know going into this, if that is true, I can hurt AJ, I've done it before. And if you're Anthony Joshua, psychologically, he'll be thinking, this guy's hurt me before, he hits extremely hard, I need to be on my A game when I go in there. So that is definitely a big factor going into this matchup. My prediction is an Anthony Joshua KO. I just feel like in terms of all-round boxing, he is more skilled. He's more experienced under the big lights. I don't think Daniel Dubois is going to be that phased, but walking out in front of 96,000 people, you know, your arse will go a bit. Like, I mean, he's definitely going to feel the nerves in there. I just don't feel like he's defensively sound enough to beat Anthony Joshua. I think he is going to get caught. I think he is going to get stung. I do think a lot of this comes down to preparation, and I feel like Anthony Joshua's team with Ben Davidson will have done all the right things, will have not left a stone unturned. I feel like Anthony Joshua will be prepared, and I feel like AJ will knock out Daniel Dubois within 5 rounds. I do feel like, though, AJ's chin will definitely be tested in this matchup. I think Daniel Dubois will put it on him, but I just think inevitably AJ will find that shot and hurt Daniel Dubois with a straight right hand, and I think he'll put Daniel Dubois down, and that will be it. My prediction is Anthony Joshua by KO. Just quickly going through the rest of the card, Tyler Denny versus Hamza Shiraz. This is a great fight. Tyler Denny is coming off a big win in his last fight, but Hamza Shiraz, in my opinion, should win this, and I think he should win this comfortably. Next up, Anthony Kakachi versus Josh Warrington. This will be a really fun matchup. I probably will be biased because I am from Northern Ireland. I am picking Anthony Kakachi to get the job done here. I think he's just too big for Josh Warrington. Josh Warrington hasn't been able to really string that many wins together recently. Anthony Kakachi also hits extremely hard. Kakachi by stoppage, in my opinion. Next up, Joshua Buatsi versus Willie Hutchinson. I am going to pick Joshua Buatsi to win this, but Willie Hutchinson really impressed me against Craig Richards, on the 5v5, and he's got that self-belief, and he is a great boxer. I think Willie Hutchinson can definitely get the job done here, but I am going to have to back Joshua Buatsi. And finally, Mark Chamberlain, versus Josh Padley. Let me see. Yeah, that's the last fight. I'm going to pick Mark Chamberlain to win this matchup here. I'm probably going to go by decision. So yeah, those are my predictions for Riyadh Season Wembley edition. I cannot wait for this fight. I cannot wait for the main event. Let me know your predictions in the comments below. And as always, like, share, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. And I'll see you again in the next one.